All right, buckle up for a deep dive into the world of whoops.
Into the world of TIFU. Today I fucked up.
That's right, courtesy of Reddit. We've got a stack of
A
stories.
stack of stories, huh?
Yeah, they'll make you laugh, cringe, and maybe, just maybe,
Maybe what?
make you feel a little less alone.
Less alone. Okay.
And your own moments of glorious human error.
Oh, those moments. Well, what's fascinating about these TIFU stories is they give us a glimpse. They offer a glimpse into those common pitfalls of human behavior, often with unexpected consequences.
Right.
And so we're going to explore how these seemingly isolated incidents
Isolated incidents.
reveal these broader patterns.
Outer patterns, okay.
In our interactions with technology, with each other, and even with ourselves.
Okay, let's jump right in with a TIFU.
Jump right in.
That perfectly illustrates our sometimes complicated relationship with technology.
Complicated.
Yeah. This one comes from Plato91.
Plato91, all right.
And it involves a highly anticipated release of a new video game called Avowed.
Avowed.
He writes, I'm 28 years old and just got back into gaming after a 10-plus year break. I was super hyped for the release of Avowed. So hyped, in fact, I did some budgeting and figured I could buy a cheap Xbox on Marketplace to play it on. Talk about dedication.
Wow, that is quite the commitment. It sounds like he was really looking forward to experiencing this game.
He was. He continues, so I found an Xbox One S for $70. No controller. But I figured I needed a new one anyway. Snagged that deal and waited up until midnight for the game to drop. Found out it wasn't releasing until 1 p.m. the next day. Frustrating, but whatever. Anticipation just builds the excitement, right?
I can feel that anticipation building already. Waiting for something you're excited about can be agonizing.
Right. So 1 p.m. rolls around. He's ready to dive into the game. And then, bam, he writes, went to download the game and dot compatible. Turns out, Avowed is only available on Series XS. And I, the big brain genius that I am, bought a 1S. I've wasted $70 on a paperweight. TIFU.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That is a classic case of getting caught up in the excitement and overlooking a crucial detail. It highlights how the rapid pace of technology, how it can create these unexpected obstacles. We often assume that newer is always better, right?
Right.
But compatibility can become a hidden pitfall.
Yeah, it's a good reminder to always do your research,
Absolutely.
especially when technology is involved. Reading those system requirements could have saved him a lot of disappointment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A little bit of planning can go a long way in preventing these kinds of technological mishaps. Speaking of mishaps, this next TIFU is a real heartbreaker, and it demonstrates how our reliance on technology can sometimes backfire in devastating ways.
Yeah.
This one comes from Queen Sapphire Blaze,
Okay.
and it begins with a simple act of forgetfulness. She writes, TIFU by factory resetting my phone and losing the last voicemail from my deceased mother.
Oh, that's awful. Losing a precious memory like that is heartbreaking. Tell us more about what happened.
So it sounds like a cascade of unfortunate events. She explains, I had changed my PIN to a swipe pattern, and after a night of bad sleep, I woke up in a panic at 4 a.m. and completely forgot it, tried a bunch of patterns, and got locked out of my phone. So, like a big idiot, I watched a YouTube video on how to factory reset my phone as a last resort. Got back into my phone, changed the PIN, got all my apps back. So far, so good, right?
It seems like she managed to recover from the initial lockout, but I have a feeling there's a twist coming.
Oh, there is. She goes on to say, then I realized the final voicemail from my mom, who passed away a few months ago, was gone. I am devastated. I didn't realize factory resetting your phone erases everything. TIFU.
Oh, that's just gut-wrenching. It makes you think about the fragility of digital memories and how we often entrust them to devices without fully understanding the risks.
This story is tragic, but it raises a profound question. In this digital age, what is our backup for emotional memory? If we can't rely solely on technology to preserve these precious moments, how do we make them more resilient?
Yeah.
Do we prioritize creating physical keepsakes? Do we share these memories with others, creating a collective archive in our hearts and minds?
That's such an important point. It's a reminder to be more intentional about how we preserve our most cherished memories,
Yeah.
both digitally and in ways that transcend technology. All right, ready to move on to a TIFU that's a little less emotionally charged.
Yeah, always. Sometimes a little bit of physical comedy can help lighten the mood.
This one definitely falls into that category. It comes from Conscious Spinach 60. and involves a late-night rendezvous with a MacBook that ended rather abruptly. They write, "It's nighttime. I'm lying in bed with the lights on and my MacBook open on my lap, getting cozy. I reach over to switch off the lights, lean back to relax, and the edge of my MacBook screen smashes into my face, right on the nose."
Ouch. I can practically feel the impact. Laptops and faces don't usually mix well,
Especially in a relaxed setting, like a bed.
especially in a setting like that, yeah.
And the aftermath wasn't pretty. They continue, blood everywhere, bed sheets ruined, I think my nose is broken, I definitely now have a deviated septum, I hate everything.
You know, it sounds like a painful lesson in spatial awareness. We've become so accustomed to having technology like at our fingertips, literally, that we sometimes forget about the physical space it occupies.
It's a good reminder to be mindful of our surroundings, especially when we're juggling multiple devices and activities. Maybe those late-night laptop sessions are better suited for a desk than a bed.
You know, this incident, it raises an interesting question about the potential risks we accept, right? In the pursuit of convenience. We embrace technology that makes our lives easier, more entertaining, but are we truly aware of the physical consequences that can accompany our constant interaction with these devices?
That's a great point. It's something to think about as we increasingly integrate technology into our daily routines.
You know, it seems like we're constantly navigating this delicate balance between the convenience and the potential hazards of technology. But let's shift gears a bit
Okay?
and dive into some TIFUs
All right.
that highlight another common source of human error, communication. I'm always fascinated by how we manage to misinterpret each other, even with the best intentions.
Oh, communication conundrums, a gold mine of awkwardness and hilarity. I've got a TIFU here
Oh, okay.
that perfectly illustrates how a simple slip-up can lead to a world of cringe. This one comes from Sweaty Staff 8100 and involves a landlord, a voice note, and a whole lot of secondhand embarrassment. They start by setting the scene. So my sink was acting up again. I messaged my landlord about it, and he asked for a video of what was happening. I sent him a video of the sink. I was also texting a friend complaining about how slow my landlord usually is to fix things.
I'm already sensing trouble brewing.
Multitasking and communication don't always mix well.
Not always.
They continue. After sending the video of the leaky sink, I went to send my friend a voice note saying, "Dude, I bet he's going to take like a week to even reply." Classic. But instead of sending it to my friend, I sent it to my landlord.
Oh no, the dreaded accidental reply all. Talk about putting your foot in your oath.
And to make matters worse, the landlord replied, "I'll try to be faster this time."
Oh.
I could only imagine that sinking feeling in their stomach.
It's a perfect example of how technology can amplify our communication blunders, right? A simple slip of the finger can have mortifying consequences. It makes you wonder, though, if there's a silver lining to these kinds of mishaps.
Yeah,
Does a little bit of unintentional honesty sometimes lead to more favorable outcomes?
that's an interesting question. In this case, it seems like the accidental voice note might have actually motivated the landlord to act more quickly. Maybe a little bit of transparency, even if unintended, can be a catalyst for positive change. Speaking of transparency, I've got a TIFU that highlights the perils of assumptions, especially when it comes to appearances and family dynamics. This one comes from Muppet John Bon Jovi, and it takes place in a retail setting, which, as we all know, can be a breeding ground for awkward encounters. They were working at a children's clothing store
Children's clothing store, okay.
during a grandparents' appreciation promotion, where, you guessed it, grandparents got a hefty discount on their purchases.
Ah, a targeted marketing campaign. I'm already sensing the potential for some misjudgments.
They explained, the sale was so popular that it seems like almost every customer was a grandparent taking advantage of the deal. I got into the habit of asking each customer about their grandkids. Most were happy to chat and even show pictures. So far, so good, right? Just a friendly cashier engaging with customers.
It seems harmless enough, but I have a feeling this customer interaction is about to take a turn.
You're right on the money. They continue one day. An older lady walks up with a mountain of kids' clothes and two little ones in tow. Without thinking, I greet her with a cheerful, "Hi, Grandma."
Oh, no.
That's never a good sign.
No.
Assuming someone's grandparent status is a risky move, especially in a retail setting.
Especially in a retail setting.
And this assumption backfired spectacularly. They write, she gives me the side eye and says, "Excuse me, but I'm still in grandparent mode," and ramble on about the sale and how lucky she is to be a grandma getting such a great discount.
It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck.
Right.
You can almost feel that awkwardness escalating with every word.
The tension is palpable. And then comes the knockout punch. Finally, she practically spits at me, "I'm their mother."
Oof. That's gotta sting. A harsh reminder that assumptions can be dangerous. Especially when it comes to age and family relationships, it makes you think about the importance of perception and how easily our brains jump to conclusions based on limited information.
Yeah, it's a good lesson in the importance of observation and active listening.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to pause, gather more information, and engage in a more mindful way. All right, ready for a TFU that's a little less cringe-inducing and a lot more lighthearted.
I'm always up for a good chuckle. What have you got?
This one comes from Kojiala, and it's all about those moments when our brains betray us and we blurt out the most ridiculous things. They write, TFU by calling dishes food laundry.
Food laundry. That's fantastic. I'm already intrigued. Tell us more about the context.
Okay, they explained, came home from work, and my partner had done the dishes. I wanted to thank them, but my brain apparently decided to stop working. Instead of saying thank you for doing the dishes, I said thank you for doing the food laundry.
The food laundry, it's such a nonsensical yet oddly appropriate term. It makes you wonder about the corpse of language
Right.
and how our brains categorize these everyday tasks.
And the best part is that their partner found it hilarious. They write, food laundry is now the official term for dishes in our household.
That's wonderful. It's a testament to the power of shared humor and how even embarrassing moments can strengthen relationships. It makes you think about the importance of embracing the absurdity of life and not taking ourselves too seriously.
Absolutely. Okay, this next TFU takes us into the realm of missed opportunities and the lingering question of what if. It's a familiar tale of hesitation, overthinking, and ultimately regret. It comes from H9116, and it begins with a classic case of unrequited love. They write, so I have this huge crush on this girl. We've been talking, hanging out, and I've been thinking about confessing my feelings for a while now. But I'm an overthinker, so I keep putting it off, waiting for the perfect moment.
Ah, the classic overthinker's dilemma. It's
Ah,
it's so easy to get caught up in our heads, analyzing every possible scenario instead of just taking action.
exactly. And in this case, that hesitation led to a missed opportunity. They continue, well, today I decided to finally go for it. I wrote out this long message, pouring my heart out, and hit send, only to realize I sent it to my homie instead.
Oh no, that's a mortifying situation. Accidentally confessing your love to the wrong person is the stuff of nightmares.
It's the ultimate digital facepalm. And to make matters worse, their friend wasn't exactly understanding. They write, he starts teasing me mercilessly, calling me simp and love-stroke fool.
Sometimes friends can be so cruel, even when they mean well. It's all fun and games until someone's heart is on the line.
Right. So determined to redeem himself, he rewrites the message, triple checks the recipient this time, and sends it off to his crush. And then crickets. Well, not exactly crickets. She eventually replies, but it wasn't the response he was hoping for.
Let me guess, she didn't feel the same way.
She let him down gently, saying she never saw him in that way, and thought they were better as friends.
Oh, rejection is never easy, especially when you've built up the courage to put yourself out there. But sometimes, even if the outcome isn't what we hope for, the act of expressing our feelings can be liberating.
Right.
It allows us to be true to ourselves and move forward with clarity.
It's a reminder that taking risks, even if they involve potential heartbreak, can be a valuable learning experience. Speaking of taking risks, this next TFU involves a missed romantic connection and the lingering question of what if. It comes from Psychic Sean, and it starts with a chance encounter in the university class. They write, I met this girl in my class who seemed absolutely perfect for me. We started talking, hanging out, and I was seriously considering asking her out.
It sounds promising. A shared intellectual environment can be a great foundation for a relationship.
It does, but alas, it was not meant to be, he continues. But I kept waiting for the right time, for that moment of absolute certainty that she wasn't seeing anyone and would reciprocate my feelings.
The classic overthinking trap. It's so easy to get stuck in our heads, analyzing every possible scenario instead of taking action. Sometimes we miss opportunities because we're too afraid of making a move.
And that's exactly what happened in this case. While he was busy debating with himself, someone else swooped in and asked her out. He writes, now she's dating this other guy, and I'm left wondering what could have been.
It's a tough lesson, but it highlights the importance of timing and taking action. Hesitation can be just as detrimental as a bold move that doesn't pan out. The key is to find that balance between being mindful and seizing the moment.
Okay, are you ready to dive into some kitchen catastrophes?
Ooh, kitchen catastrophes.
We've got a TFU that's equal parts hilarious and terrifying, and it highlights the importance of mindfulness when it comes to food preparation. This one comes from Sleeping Lady 37, an experienced forager who usually knows her stuff when it comes to identifying edible plants. But this time, well, let's just say she made a bit of a blunder.
Oh no, I'm already feeling a bit queasy. I hope it wasn't anything poisonous.
It was potentially poisonous, but thankfully she caught it in time. She writes, I went out to harvest my usual wild garlic and thought I had stumbled upon some few flowered leek growing nearby. Excited by her find, she rigged up a delicious pesto, using mostly wild garlic and a small bunch of what she thought was the wild leek.
I see where this is going. Mistaking a poisonous plant for an edible one is a forager's worst nightmare.
Exactly, and the consequences could be serious. She continues, I had a bit of the pesto on a sandwich and felt nauseous, but attributed it to motion sickness from being on a train. Then the next day, I used some of the pesto on chicken thighs and roasted a fresh leek leaf with some potatoes.
Oh dear, I fear this isn't going to end well.
Right.
Ingesting even a small amount of certain plants can have severe effects on our bodies.
About 10 minutes into her meal, she started violently throwing up.
Oh.
After frantically consulting online plant identification experts, she realized that those leek leaves were actually daffodils or bluebells.
Daffodils. Those are highly toxic. Ingesting even a small amount can cause severe digestive upset. It's a stark reminder to be absolutely certain of what you're consuming, especially when foraging for wild plants.
It's a good lesson in the importance of responsible foraging practices. Double-checking your finds, consulting multiple sources, can help prevent these kinds of potentially dangerous mistakes. All right, this next TIFU takes us into the realm of personal insecurities and the awkward situations that can arise from them. It comes from Seal 23, and it starts with a seemingly mundane trip to the mall. They write, TIFU by forgetting my front tooth at home.
Oh no, not just any front tooth, but their single tooth denture. That's got to be a nightmare scenario, especially in a public place like a mall.
It's a situation that could definitely make you want to blend into the background. They continue, was heading to the mall, wallet, keys, phone, everything ready to go. Parked, got out of my car, and casual ran my tongue over my teeth, and my front tooth wasn't there.
Talk about a confidence killer. I can imagine the wave of panic that must have washed over them in that moment.
Right. They were faced with a dilemma. Do they try to pull off the confident, mysterious, toothless stranger look? Or do they admit defeat and retreat back home?
What did they decide to do?
They chose the latter. They write, paid for parking, got back in the car, and drove straight home, feeling defeated.
Sometimes the simplest things can throw us for a loop. It's a reminder to slow down, double-check our essentials, and maybe invest in a denture case that's a bit more memorable. But it also makes you think about the pressure we put on ourselves to present a perfect image to the world.
Right.
What if they had embraced the toothless look and rocked it with confidence? Would people have stared, judged, or maybe even admired them self-assurance?
That's a great point. It's a reminder that our perceived flaws are often amplified in our own minds. Maybe embracing our imperfections can be a powerful way to challenge societal norms and redefine beauty standards.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that true beauty comes from within and that confidence is the most attractive accessory we can wear. Speaking of confidence, let's move on to a TIFU that's equal parts hilarious and heartwarming.
Okay.
It's a tale of culinary frustration, perseverance, and ultimately triumph.
I love a good comeback story, especially when it involves delicious food. Tell us more.
This one comes from Spooky Beagle, a pasta enthusiast who was determined to make a creamy, cheesy pasta dish from scratch. The problem? No dried pasta in the pantry. No worries, though. She had a pasta roller from Italy, a Christmas gift she was excited to finally use.
Ah, the pasta roller, a culinary tool that promises homemade pasta perfection and sometimes delivers frustration.
Very true. So she gathers her ingredients, makes a beautiful egg and flour dough, sets it to rest in the fridge, then gets to work on the sauce, a culinary masterpiece in the making.
Right.
But then disaster strikes.
Don't tell me she burned the sauce.
Worse.
What?
She couldn't find the crank for the pasta roller.
Oh no, the crank is essential for rolling out the dough. Without it, the pasta roller it's just a fancy paperweight. What did she do?
With her husband and kids hungry, her baby about to wake up, and dinner already running late, she grabbed her rolling pin and tried to roll out the dough as thinly as possible. But let's be real, a rolling pin is no match for a pasta roller. The pasta ended up thick and undercooked. Not exactly the gourmet meal she had envisioned.
Oh, the disappointment. But at least she had that amazing sauce to salvage the meal.
Right, right. But the missing crank continued to haunt her. She searched high and low, tearing apart her kitchen in a frenzy, determined to find it.
Oh, I've been there. That feeling of I know it's here somewhere can drive you mad.
And here's the best part. She eventually found the blasted crank. It was buried under some towers in her kitchen towel drawer, right next to the utensil drawer where she usually kept it.
Oh, the relief. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the hardest to see when we're in panic mode.
Totally. And the moral of the story, Never underestimate the power of a well-stocked kitchen towel drawer.
Or the importance of taking a deep breath and approaching a problem with a clear head.
Okay, ready for a TIFU that's all about those moments when your mouth betrays you, those those verbal slip-ups that make you want to just disappear into thin air.
Bring it on. I'm fascinated by the ways in which our words can both connect and disconnect us, often in unexpected ways.
This next TIFU is a perfect example of that. It comes from Tiny Rascalsaurus, who works at a church. They have a rather unique job title. Kooky Catch-All Fix-It Gopher.
Kooky catch-all, what was it?
Fix-It Gopher.
Fix-It gopher, okay.
Basically, they keep things running smoothly despite being a self-proclaimed, chronically ill, agnostic chick.
That's quite a contrast. It takes a certain kind of personality to thrive in that kind of environment.
It does. One of their responsibilities is overseeing the church's partnership with the Red Cross for blood drives.
Okay.
They're one of the biggest drives in the area, so they have regular meetings with a Red Cross organizer.
Sounds like a lot of responsibility. And a potential minefield of social interactions. I'm guessing this is where the TIFU comes in.
You got it. The outreach ministry is also involved in the blood drives and attends these meetings. They're described as very good, right, kind of Christian people who do a lot for the community, but also very Christian.
I'm sensing the potential for a clash of cultures here.
Right. So during a call with outreach to discuss the agenda for an upcoming meeting, our protagonist kept having a brain fart.
Okay.
They were trying to say the Commons, which is the name of the area where they put out the blood drive say-up sheets.
The comments, simple enough. What could go wrong?
Well, instead of the Commons, what kept coming out of their mouth was the condom.
Oh, no. That's unfortunate, especially in a church setting with a very Christian ministry.
Right, and they couldn't stop saying it. Every time they tried to refer to the location, it came out as the condom. They were mortified.
I can only imagine the awkward silences on that call. Did they try to explain the slip-up?
They wanted to crawl under their desk and die. To make matters worse, they're morose and haven't touched a condom since 6th grade. The irony is almost too much to bear.
The irony. Sometimes our brains have a wicked sense of humor. So how did they recover from this verbal blunder?
They're dreading the upcoming meeting and plan to avoid using the word common altogether. Probably a wise move.
Sometimes it's best to let the awkwardness fade with time. Okay, this next TFU takes us into the realm of mistaken identity and the consequences that can arise from jumping to conclusions. It comes from Bostic410, who was in for a rude awakening when they accidentally hopped into the wrong car.
Oh, I love a good mistaken identity story. Tell us more.
They were at the grocery store. Their boyfriend was picking them up,
Okay.
and it was late. They spotted what they thought was his car, a red sedan, and hurried over to it. The parking lot lights were dimming, and it was tough to see.
Okay, I'm already sensing some potential for confusion.
They write, "In a rush, I opened the trunk, tossed in my groceries, hopped into the car." And you could probably guess what happened next.
They realized they were in the wrong car.
But not before launching into a rant about some woman who had bumped into their foot with her shopping cart.
Oh no, they were ranting to a complete stranger.
They were bid-rant when they finally looked at the driver and realized it wasn't their boyfriend.
Double cringe. That's got to be one of the most awkward situations imaginable. Did they try to explain themselves?
I can only imagine the look on the stranger's face. They don't go into detail about the aftermath, but I'm sure it was a memorable encounter for everyone involved.
It's a reminder to always double check before hopping into a car, especially if you're prone to ranting.
And maybe apologize profusely if you accidentally subject a stranger to your grocery store drama.
Good point. A sincere apology can go a long way in diffusing awkward situations. Okay, ready for a TFU that's a little more technologically unsettling?
Bring it on. I'm always fascinated by the ways in which technology can be both beneficial and a little creepy.
This one comes from AfraidWorking275, and it involves a website called PyMice, which allows you to search for someone's face online.
Ooh, that sounds a bit invasive. I'm sensing some potential privacy violations here.
You're not wrong. Our protagonist, an 18-year-old high school senior, was bored and decided to experiment with PyMice. They uploaded photos of their friends and crushes, just out of curiosity.
I can understand the appeal of facial recognition technology. It's fascinating to see how algorithms can connect images across the vast expanse of the internet. But it also raises concerns about consent and the potential for misuse.
Exactly. And in this case, things took a turn for the worse when the website popped up a warning message.
Okay.
They write, "It said they detected a child in one of my uploads and threatened legal action if necessary."
Uh-oh. That's never a good sign. Were they uploading photos of minors?
It seems like they were. The youngest person in the photos was 17, and they were all in the same grade.
That's definitely a gray area, legally speaking. Even if it was just a case of harmless experimentation, using facial recognition technology on minors without their consent can raise serious ethical and legal concerns.
It's a reminder that technology, while powerful, should always be used responsibly and ethically. We need to be mindful of the potential consequences of our actions, especially when it comes to privacy and data security.
All right, ready for a TIFU that highlights the importance of attention to detail, especially in a high-stakes environment like a healthcare setting.
Always. I'm fascinated by how even the smallest oversights can have significant consequences.
This story comes from Mysterious Beagle, an intern at a public healthcare facility. They were tasked with collecting blood samples from mothers recovering from C-sections.
A routine procedure, right. I'm sensing a but coming.
They were almost done collecting the samples when they realized they had mixed up the vials for the last 4 patients.
Oh no, that's a major medical error.
Right?
Mixing up blood samples could lead to misdiagnoses and incorrect treatments.
Exactly. Thankfully, all the vials were properly labeled, so they were able to catch the mistake and separate the samples quickly.
That's a relief, but I'm sure it was a stressful situation.
You bet. They had to relabel vials and draw fresh blood from the 4 mothers who were understandably irritated.
I can imagine. Nobody wants to be poked with a needle more than necessary.
It's true. This TIFU is a reminder that even the most experienced medical professionals can make mistakes, and that attention to detail is absolutely crucial in healthcare settings. Clear communication and double-checking procedures are essential to prevent these kinds of errors.
Speaking of errors, this next TIFU involves a classic computer game that's brought joy to millions and anxiety to at least one.
Intrigued, what game are we talking about?
It comes from Overall Sorbet 8027, and they write, TIFU by accidentally giving myself anxiety from playing Minesweeper.
Minesweeper, that's a classic. I used to spend hours playing that game. But anxiety, how is that even possible?
It's a fascinating case of classical conditioning.
Okay.
They explain that for months they've paired their Minesweeper sessions with listening to scary stories on YouTube.
Okay.
Think skinwalkers, glitches in the Matrix, that sort of thing.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. Their brain has linked the tension and suspense of the scary stories with the gameplay of Minesweeper.
Exactly. Now, whenever they open the game, they get this sense of dread. Clicking on a mine makes them flinch. Their internal dialogue has become unnervingly tense.
That's hilarious and slightly disturbing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's amazing how our brains can create such unexpected associations. Maybe they need to find a new relaxation activity.
Right.
Something a little less triggering.
Or maybe they could embrace the fear and become a Minesweeper horror story narrator. I'm sure there's an audience for that.
Okay, let's take a quick trip to Italy with Haikuzer US, who shares a TIFU that highlights the importance of clear communication. Even when language barriers are involved, they begin their story by setting the scene. This is a couple of decades ago. Before the days of smartphones and Google Translate, I was on a solo trip to Italy for about a month. And I was a smoker. Back then, you couldn't buy cigarettes in convenience stores or grocery stores. You had to find these little hole-in-the-wall shops called tabacci that sold tobacco products.
Ah, the quest for cigarettes in a foreign country.
Right.
I can imagine it was a bit of a challenge.
It was. They often had to ask people on the street for directions to the nearest tabacci shop. But there was a problem. They didn't speak Italian, and their pronunciation of tabacci was, let's just say it needed work.
I've been there. Trying to communicate in a language you don't know can be both frustrating and hilarious. How did they manage to overcome this language barrier?
They resorted to pantomime. They would mimic smoking a cigarette and make circular motions with their hands.
I can just picture it, a desperate tourist gesturing wildly on a street corner in Italy.
For the most part, people understood what they were looking for. But after a couple of weeks of this charade, they got tired of feeling like a mime. They decided to ask an Italian who spoke English for the actual word for cigarettes.
That seems like a logical solution. What could go wrong?
Well, it turns out the Italian word for cigarettes is cigarette.
No, you're kidding. All that time they were just butchering the pronunciation of a word that was practically the same in English.
Talk about a facepalm moment. It's a reminder that sometimes the simple solution is the most obvious one, and that it never hurts to ask for clarification, especially when you're in a foreign country. Okay, ready for a TIFU that's both hilarious and a little bit concerning?
Always. I'm ready for anything at this point.
This one comes from Brains in a Jar, who was having a rare disagreement with her husband of 10 years.
Arguments happen.
Right.
Even in the strongest relationships, it's how we handle them that matters.
Well, in this case, things took an unexpected turn when our protagonist, in a moment of frustration, blurted out a rather unusual insult.
Oh no, I'm sensing a doozy of an insult coming.
They called their husband a dick-inch dingy.
Oh, what? I'm not even sure what that means, but I can only imagine her husband's reaction.
His face dropped, and he went out to their car.
Oh dear, that doesn't sound good.
But here's where things get interesting. He came back inside with sage.
Sage, like the herb.
Yep, he lit the sage and wafted it around the house, saying he didn't appreciate that kind of language, and that there were bad spirits in the air.
Wait, what are you saying he thought she was possessed?
That's exactly what he thought. He claimed she looked demonic while uttering that bizarre insult.
It's like something out of a sitcom.
Right.
An argument, a nonsensical insult, and a husband wielding a smoldering bundle of sage.
The best part, she apologized and started laughing, which only convinced her husband that the sage had worked.
So now she's stuck with a husband who thinks she's prone to demonic possession every time they have a disagreement.
Pretty much. She's resigned to being saged after every argument.
Well, at least they have a sense of humor about it. It's a reminder that even the most absurd situations can bring couples closer together.
Okay, ready for a TIFU that's a bit more but intimate.
I'm always up for a story that explores the complexities of human relationships. Bring it on.
This one comes from Asmodeus Lest 0001. And involved the people who enjoy experimenting with their boundaries. They had invited their boyfriend over for a day of movies, snacks, cuddling, and other activities. But things took a turn when the boyfriend got a message from his mom saying she was picking him up sooner than expected.
Uh-oh. I'm sensing a bit of disappointment in the air.
You got that right. And in a moment of playful revenge, they decided to try something new. Without consulting their boyfriend first, they started getting intimate, working him up, but then denied him the satisfaction he was expecting.
Oh no. The dreaded blue balls scenario, not exactly the recipe for a happy ending.
And to make matters worse, cuddling is an important part of their aftercare routine. But because he had to leave so abruptly, they weren't able to cuddle.
Aftercare is so important. It's about fostering emotional connection and ensuring everyone feels safe and respected.
Totally. So the denial experiment backfired, and they both felt a bit unsatisfied.
It's a good reminder that communication is key, especially when it comes to exploring new things in a relationship.
Absolutely. Consent and clear communication are essential, even when you're in a dom-sub dynamic.
Speaking of miscommunication, this next TIFU involves accidentally triggering someone's hyperfixations.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. Hyperfixations can be both a blessing and a curse, leading to incredible focus and passion, but also derailing even the best-laid plans.
This story comes from Tiki L, and it takes place during a Dungeons & Dragons session. He and his girlfriend, who has autism, play D&D online every other week. They were having dinner at her place before the game, and he decided to ask her a fun theoretical question related to her special interests, League of Legends and One Direction.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What was the question?
He asked, if League of Legends made a new boy band and the members were voiced by the original members of One Direction, who would each member voice?
Oh boy, that's a recipe for a hyperfixation spiral, combining two of her passions into one irresistible thought experiment.
And she was immediately hooked.
Oh no.
She started listening to the solo songs of each One Direction member, comparing them to League of Legends characters, trying to find the perfect match. He tried to gently nudge her along, reminding her that they were running late for the D&D session, but to no avail. She was on a mission to solve this puzzle, and nothing was going to stop her.
So they ended up spending 45 minutes debating the perfect voice pairings for this imaginary boy band.
Poor D&D group, left waiting in digital limbo.
Right? He had to message the other players and let them know they were running late.
It's a good reminder that sometimes our passions can lead us down unexpected paths. It's okay to get lost in the moment as long as we're mindful of the people around us.
Okay, this last TIFU for part 2 is a cautionary tale about the importance of reading instructions, especially when it comes to personal grooming products. Steelbird 223 ordered sensitive skin nair for their .nether regions, hoping to avoid razor burn. They got in the shower, skimmed the first few lines of the instructions, and proceeded to apply the nair in 3 batches.
Three batches? That seems a bit excessive.
It was. They didn't keep the nair on for more than a minute each time. Or so they thought. Turns out they didn't rinse thoroughly enough between treatments, and the result, a fiery, burning sensation
Oh.
on their scrotum.
Ouch. That sounds incredibly painful.
And to make matters worse, it was only after the burning started that they read the full instructions and realized they weren't supposed to use nair on their genitals.
Oh no, talk about a facepalm moment. Sometimes the most obvious warnings are the ones we overlook.
They were lucky enough to have Sylvadine cream on hand, But even after multiple treatments, the burn was still pretty bad.
I'm wincing just thinking about it. This is definitely a TIFU that could have been avoided with a little more attention to detail.
It's a good reminder to always read the full instructions before using any product, especially if it involves sensitive areas.
It's amazing how often we learn the hard way when it comes to reading instructions. Speaking of learning the hard way, our next TFU involves a common household hazard, a bit of bad luck, and a whole lot of pain.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Set the scene for us. What happened?
This one comes from Ida Kaukomili. They were at home recovering from a nasty case of bronchitis, alternating between bed and the shower.
Oof, I can relate. Bronchitis is no joke. It makes you feel miserable.
Exactly. And because they were feeling so under the weather, they weren't wearing their glasses.
No big deal, right? It's just a short walk from the bed to the shower. What could possibly go wrong?
Famous last words. On their way back to bed, they felt a sudden stinging pain in their foot. They looked down and saw a pincushion stuck to the bottom of their foot.
A pincushion. Ouch. How did that even happen?
It seems their cat, who likes to hang out on their crafting desk, had accidentally pushed the pincushion onto the floor, upside down, and because they weren't wearing their glasses, their vision was blurry and they didn't see the pincushion on the floor.
Talk about bad luck. It's a good reminder to always wear your glasses or contacts if you have impaired vision. Even for short trips around the house, you never know what hazards might be lurking.
They were lucky that their feet have, thick soles, so the pins didn't penetrate too deeply, but they still ended up with a bunch of pinpricks on the bottom of their foot.
I can only imagine how much that must have hurt. Every step must have been agonizing. Well, this next TFU takes us back to the world of technology and the potential for unintended consequences when we combine our love of gadgets with a desire for convenience.
Let's hear it. What kind of tech-related mishap are we diving into this time?
This story comes from BusyAd7150, and it starts with a simple desire to streamline their morning routine. They write, I have one of those smart coffee makers that you can program to start brewing at a certain time. I set it to start brewing 10 minutes before my alarm goes off so I can wake up to the smell of fresh coffee.
That sounds heavenly. Who doesn't love the aroma of freshly brewed coffee in the morning? It's a great way to start the day.
It is, but in this case, the convenience factor backfired. They explain, well, this morning, I forgot to refill the water reservoir after making coffee yesterday.
Uh-oh. I'm sensing a burnt coffee situation. Or worse.
It was definitely worse than burnt coffee. They write, the coffee maker turned on as scheduled, but because there was no water, it started to burn. The smell woke me up, but by then, the kitchen was filled with smoke, and the coffee maker was basically ruined.
Oh no, that's a nightmare scenario. Not only did they not get their morning coffee, but they also had to deal with a smoky kitchen and a broken appliance.
Talk about a rough start to the day. It's a reminder to always double-check those crucial steps, even when relying on automated systems. Sometimes, even the smartest technology needs a little human intervention.
Well said. Our reliance on smart devices can sometimes lead to complacency. We need to remember that technology, while helpful, isn't foolproof.
Okay, this next TFU takes us into the realm of social media and the perils of public declarations. It comes from Adventurous Ad 2201, and it involves a Twitter post that backfired spectacularly. They start by setting the scene. I'm at a concert right now for band name Redacted. It's incredible, and I'm having the time of my life.
Sounds like a great concert. Live music can be such an exhilarating experience.
It can, but this concertgoer's enthusiasm got the better of him. They continue, I decided to tweet about how amazing it is, saying that this is the best concert I've ever been to. The tweet was meant to be a harmless expression of excitement, but I forgot one crucial detail. What do you think they forgot?
Let me guess. Did they accidentally tag the wrong band? Or maybe reveal a secret about the concert that wasn't supposed to be public knowledge?
They forgot that their dad follows them on Twitter. And they had just gone to a concert with their dad a few weeks ago, a concert that they had also declared at the time to be the best concert ever.
Oh no, that's awkward. Talk about putting your foot in your mouth. Did their dad call it out on it?
They write, my dad just texted me asking if he should be offended. I can only imagine the teasing they endured after that tweet.
It's a reminder that our words, especially on social media, can have unintended consequences. It's always good to be mindful of our audience and the potential impact of our posts.
Well, that's a wrap on today's deep dive into the hilarious, cringeworthy, and often relatable world of human error.
It's been a fascinating exploration of the many ways we manage to mess things up, misunderstand each other, and occasionally inflict pain upon ourselves, all in the name of being human.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we're all in this together. We all make mistakes, big and small. And it's through sharing our experiences, even the embarrassing ones, that we can connect with each other and learn to navigate the complexities of being human.
Beautifully said. Now, before we go, we want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question. What TIFU story would you share? And what valuable lesson did you learn from it? Think about it, share it with a friend, or even post it on Reddit. You never know, your story might just inspire someone else to embrace their own imperfections and laugh at the absurdity of it all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and remember, no matter how badly you screw up, there's always a good story to tell. Until next time.